We're getting into the brand new Woodinville 9-year. Honestly, this is probably the best nose I've had on any bourbon all year. Let's go. How are y'all doing today? My name's Chris. Welcome back to Bourbinsane. Super pumped, super grateful to get to try this bottle, Woodinville 9-year. This is part of a 3 whiskey series. At least they had one last year that was the 8-year, 9 this year, and they have announced they have plans for a 10-year next year, so I can't wait to get my hands on that one. Let's talk about Woodinville a little bit. So Woodinville is a whiskey company located in Washington, state of Washington. And they are doing some really, really cool stuff and experimental stuff with specifically their barrels and how they age their whiskey. Woodinville uses what's called open air staves. So they put their staves on. This specific release is actually 24 months. Typically it's like an 18-month for most of their expressions. But this is a 24-month open air stave. So they put their whiskey barrel staves out in the elements. So the snow, the wind, the rain, all that stuff. And they let it season. You know, they're called seasoned staves. So after that, they put their barrels together, they age the whiskey in those barrels. What it does to the whiskey, though, is very, very unique and very interesting. And I'm not going to get into spoilers too much. We'll go into it when we talk about the review. But I think it's really, really cool that they do that. It's something definitely distinct and unique from other companies. It shows that they're willing to take the time to, you know, let their whiskey be the way they want it. They're not trying to rush out product and put out product before it's ready. They are willing to sit on that whiskey for 2 years while their staves age. So I think that's great. This whiskey specifically is a 35% rye mash bill. My gosh, this cork. Ugh, holy crap. Typically their mash bill is not that high of rye, but this is a slightly different mash bill for the 9-year. And quite honestly, it does something special to it. So let's look at color here. Oh, that's a nice hefty pour there. This has got almost like a red tinge to me. It looks almost like a red hue. Very nice looking color though. Nice legs on the glass too in my light. That's beautiful. Beautiful stuff. Let's go into the nose. Oh man. I love that nose. It is like, man, eating a Carmelo bar. So nougaty, so toffee forward. That oak presence is there. Such nice creamy oak. I love that creamy oak you get with aged products, and it really does come through nice on this 9-year. I love that smell. It, like on the nose, it smells very desserty. A very dessert-forward bourbon. Something I always get out of Woodinville products too is what I kind of describe as like a lumber yard, or kind of like fresh sawdust, which I'll attribute that to youthful whiskeys quite often. But with Woodinville, it's not that. It's every single edge is rounded off, and especially in their older expressions, it just gives me that slight sawdusty lumberyard smell, and it might have to do with the seasoned staves, honestly. Very caramel, very whipped forward, though. Let's go into the taste. That oak. I mean, that oak was the initial thing right on the palate, and I got a huge, huge hit of clove. Clove and nutmeg on the front of the palate there. Still lingering. Like, I can taste that. It tastes like clove, like, on my mouth. That's crazy. I don't remember that the first time I went into this. Definitely the nutmeg and toffee, but that oakiness, though, I think it is the seasoning staves, the seasoned staves they use. It adds this creamy oak, lumberyardy, it's the Woodinville lumberyardy note I describe, you know. I love it, though. I love it. It reminds me of like almost like a spice cake or something, like a Christmas spice cake. On the palate there, the mid palate with all that clove and nutmeg. You know, I think the smell of the creamy oak that I mentioned, that definitely came through a lot more on the nose. Today with this bottle, it's just hitting me so much with clove. I don't know what it is. So many baking spices. It's all over the place. All over. Let me do one more sip here. You know, every sip of this is something different. This whiskey really takes you on a journey and takes you on a ride. Absolutely dessert forward bourbon. And now I'm getting a little bit of that baking cocoa. Now setting in on the middle of the palate also. Super intricate, super deep whiskey, honestly. For me, I put out a written review of this on my website, bourbinsane.com. That's been out now for a couple weeks when this first dropped, late August. This is my favorite nose on a whiskey all year, all of 2025. Everything you get out of the nose, and it's different every time I've gone into it now, which is probably 3 or 4 times I've had this. The palate's completely different every time. So as the bottle, I guess, oxidizes a little bit, completely opens up different flavor profiles. But if you want to check out the notes I talked about during the written review, which was different a little bit than this, check that out because it is different. And I love this bottle. I really do. This is really, really good. And I think this is going to show up on some of my lists as probably one of the top contenders of the year for me of what I've tried. You know, I've been able to try some of the super, super rare stuff, of course. And we have our other stuff coming out later. But so far, so good with this. And I can't wait to try it a little further down. This bottle did just drop late August, early September. So you may be able to find this in certain markets. Price is $129.99 on this. Steep price for bourbon, I know. But I do think this is the best thing I've ever had out of Woodinville. I'll say it, hands down. So if it was me, I would buy another bottle of this again because of the journey this whiskey can take you on. It definitely challenges your palate. You know, it really gives you different notes, different flavors every time you try it, as mentioned. But if you like that, or you're a connoisseur of whiskey and you enjoy that kind of stuff, you gotta find a bottle of this. Thank you so much for watching the review today. If you haven't yet, please do check out my Patreon page. A lot of really cool stuff going over there with the community. A lot of behind the scenes, early access, and you can get your hands on some nice swag and merchandise just for being over there. You can even join for free if you want to, and even that's appreciated. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Thank you so much for watching today. Stay insane.